This PowerPoint is on Chapter 26, Lifestyle Redesign Programs from the Occupational Therapy and Community-Based Practice Settings. And this slideshow is done by Sara Golshiri, Katie Haig, and Rochelle Padre. Based off the World Health Organization and Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, chronic diseases are one of the leading causes of death. 60% of these deaths are caused by chronic diseases such as heart disease, stroke, cancer, chronic respiratory diseases, and diabetes. This shows that we have a great need for prevention and self-management. So that's what this chapter is about, lifestyle redesign. What is it and why do we care? We all know those are the most important questions. The process of developing and enacting a customized routine of health promoting and meaningful daily activities. But when we think of lifestyle, we have to think about what that encompasses. That's our ADL and IADL, our health status, habits and routines, nutritional choices, cultural preferences, and physical activity, just to name a few. During the process of lifestyle redesign, there comes a need for change. As occupational therapists, we understand the value of looking in the details and how gradual steps lead to a bigger picture. Now, with using lifestyle redesign, we're doing just that. We're looking at the minute details of everyday life, like how much coffee someone's had, to how much they've eaten, to a more bigger picture, like their environment, where they come from, their culture, all to see what changes need to be made to have a healthier lifestyle. This approach aims to facilitate a lifestyle change that occurs over a period of time, taking small steps to create a big picture or a big change. And as occupational therapists, we understand that change doesn't just happen overnight. It takes step-by-step process to get to where we want to be. And as the client continues this lifestyle journey, they develop the needed skill set to continue this lifestyle in the future. So it's helping them build the tools they need so they don't bounce back after they're done and just go back to old habits. And every single change that's occurring, all the little steps that are happening, they're all created by the person. So the person's very in charge of their journey and picks out what's important versus what's not important, and it really allows them to be the director of their own journey. So the Lifestyle Redesign Program was essentially created off of the 4 core ideas from occupational therapy profession. These are: occupation is life itself, occupation can create new visions of possible lives, occupation has a curative effect on physical and mental health and on a sense of life and routine, and occupation has a place in preventative care. So along with those core ideas, occupational science greatly influenced lifestyle redesign. Some of these concepts include the dynamic and generative quality of occupations, which have the power to create transformation, the meaning evoked from occupation including life narratives, dynamic systems theory, and the view of human as occupational being, which can also be seen as the holistic view. There are other theoretical and philosophical influences of the lifestyle redesign that are listed in our book on box 26-2 that can be found on page 379 if you would like to read the rest of them. So the lifestyle redesign approach was originally created for an intervention to be used at the University of Southern California in their Well Elderly study. This was a randomized clinical trial that incorporated community dwelling seniors in Los Angeles from 1994 to 1997. The details of the study include to see if occupational therapy could actually help in preventing the decline in functioning and well-being. In the study, there were 361 men and women that participated. They were from African American, Asian, Caucasian, and Hispanic descent, and they were over the age of 60, with the mean age being 74.4. They were randomly assigned to 3 different groups: occupational therapy, social activities with non-professionals, and no service given at all. This was a 9-month treatment, and groups of 8 to 10 people were in a session 1 time a week for about 2 hours, and then these same individuals would go to a personal meeting 1 time a month for 2 hours. So the implementation happened in multiple steps. The first was a needs assessment that focused on groups, interviewing surveys, community profiling, and literature reviews. Then the second step included a more formal approach that took on studies to identify what the intervention would target, which included, of course, the 2 qualitative pilot studies and also literature reviews. In the first qualitative study, it identified 7 categories of adaptation that would be used by community dwelling elders who are currently living with disabilities. These adaptations that were found to help promote success in their community were personal themes of meaning as motifs for occupations, risk and challenge in occupations, activity patterns and temporal rhythms, control, identity through occupations, maintaining community, and promoting social change. In the second qualitative study, they also looked at adaptive strategies, but then the focus of people had shifted to elders who were living without a disability. They found, after interviewing about 29 community dwelling elders, that the following 11 life domains were most threatening to the participants: activities of daily living, adaptation to a multicultural environment, use of free time, grave illness and death, spirituality, health maintenance, mobility maintenance, personal finances, personal safety, psychological well-being and happiness, and relationships with others. So why was this important? Well, it identified certain areas that occupational therapy had not originally or traditionally addressed at the time with these elders. So this was very important because it shined a light to the need of occupational therapy to perform needs assessments on their focused population. After the 2 qualitative pilot studies, another step included the development of occupational self-analysis in a course taught for several years at USC. So during this course, the students were essentially challenged to analyze their own occupational patterns and then make changes according to what they would have in their lives to make it more satisfying, meaningful, and essentially productive. So specifically, they were looking about how their childhood choices and their daily occupations affected their current well-being and health. This was the same idea of challenging old habits and kind of making it into new ones that was done in the Well Elderly study. So with any study, what we really care about is the results and what actually happened. So at the end of the study, it was supported that participants who participated in occupational therapy had greater gains and less declines in physical health, functioning, mental, life satisfaction, and vitality. The p-values were less than 0.05, and the results that were maintained lasted over 6 months after the intervention. And the lifestyle redesign intervention was cost-effective. There were several key components that all played a crucial role in having the lifestyle redesign program be as successful as it was. It started off with the attitude of the therapist. By having a positive attitude, it helped build a connection with the participant. This led into safety. By building a positive environment and a welcoming environment, the person felt that they were able to express how they truly feel and participate to the full and best of their abilities. Then, the service delivery aspect of the intervention incorporated 4 key methods, which was didactic presentation, peer exchange, direct experience, and personal exploration. Didactic presentation included new information about a topic relevant to the participant, as well as about occupation and how it affects each participant. The peer exchange allowed for facilitation between each other. It let them exchange personal stories and really build a bond amongst each other. The direct experience was through an activity or some form of outing, which allowed them to have hands-on experience. And the personal exploration allowed for reflection on the content that they learned during the session. Due to the Lifestyle Redesign program being a success, After the Well Elderly study, there were multiple programs created since then. Each of these programs contained the same key components that were outlined previously, but the only differences were based off their population, the needs would then adjust to who they were addressing. So some of these programs included lifestyle redesign for weight management, diabetes, chronic headaches, college students, and mental health. And the core of each of these programs, again, were to change small habits to have a whole lifestyle redesign. Each of the topics that they addressed are very prevalent in our community, and each have a critical effect on our population and therefore needed to be addressed. So when we're looking at reimbursement for the Lifestyle Redesign Program, a lot of the programs that were offered primarily come from the client's health insurance. So even though the topics weren't traditional topics that occupational therapy necessarily addresses, insurance companies were willing to pay for occupational therapy services for these diagnoses. On the other hand, there was also self-pay grants and special contracts that also demonstrated to be viable methods of reimbursement. In some cases, people did have to pay a co-payment for every session or visit for the 16 weeks of service. But in the case of the weight loss management program, some insurances offered that if the person were to lose the weight and keep it off for about 3 months, the insurance company would reimburse the member for those copays. And members of this plan also participated in the 16-week program and received a reimbursement up to 3 times. So even though there were still out-of-pocket payments, participants were able to have some form of reimbursement, whether it be through the insurance paying for their sessions or essentially rewarding them for completing the whole program and succeeding.